welcome to the beginning of Series 47, everyone. We are back from our 2-week break to bring you a fantastic series that is very romance-oriented, just in time for February, the month of love. That's right, we are covering a game that is sure to get your hearts racing, Thirsty Sword Lesbians, and we cannot wait for you to hear all of our nonsense turned all the way up. But before we get to all of that, first, some announcements.
I liked the way that you said month of love, like you were like a radio DJ. It's the month of love. First up, my episode of Kill Every Monster just came out last week. I got to dive into my favorite kind of nonsense and talk about the undead hordes and necromancy.
Yeah.
So I had, it was just the best time. For those of you not familiar with the podcast, Aram and Dylan sit down with a guest every 2 weeks and talk about a monster from the D&D Monster Manual. They talk about what it does, how to make it better, and then we do a fun encounter where we try and kill Aram.
Yeah.
I had a great time. It was peak discussion of the moral and ethical implications of necromancy. And so I think it was a very Amelia moment.
Yeah.
So you can find that episode at killeverymonster.com or anywhere that you find podcasts.
Yeah, I've been making my way through that podcast lately, and it has become probably my favorite podcast out there right now.
Which is saying something for you, because you are you listen to a lot of podcasts.
I do listen to a lot of but the presentation of this podcast just blows my mind, and I cannot say I can't say enough good things about it. It's just so good.
Yeah, the editing is phenomenal. Aram puts in tons of work. I have to say, as a guest on there, it was such an awesome experience. I've been friends with Dylan for a while, and I know that he and Aram had wanted to start a show for a long time, and so I'm excited that they finally got the chance to make their schedules match up to do it. But I saw that the show started, and I messaged them and messaged Dylan and said, excuse me, let me on your show, please. Pick a monster. And then I messaged him and I was like, there's skeletons in here. There's skeletons in the monster manual. And he's like, you can have zombies for free.
Two for the price of one.
It was great. Yeah. I had an awesome time, but it's a great podcast. Just a fun concept for a show too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't yet, because it is phenomenal. And check out Amelia's episode. I listened to the first bit of it, skipped ahead in my listening queue a little, and it started off fantastic. And Aram has been a source of inspiration in the last couple of weeks for myself, for what I want to do with editing and whatnot. But the marketing for this podcast is phenomenal. So I figured out how to make our episodes shine a little bit more, and we're rolling out those updates that you'll probably have noticed on Twitter. So I'm really excited.
I'm excited.
So excited. Well, next on the list of announcements is that we would appreciate your assistance if you love what we're doing here, love what you hear in this series, and if you're here for the first time even, or if you just want to send some warm and fuzzy feelings to some cold Wisconsinites during these chilling months, please head over to Podchaser, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addicts, Spotify, or others to leave a rating and review. You can also reach out to us on Twitter at CreationCast or join our Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com and let us know what you think. We would love to hear from you, and for every 5-star review we get, we will read it out in the call to action section at the end of our episodes. We absolutely love to have more to read, and goodness, we are out right now, so...
It's been sad. It's been a really sad time. So maybe consider that your Valentine to us. If you were thinking, I would love to send something to my favorite podcasters, Amelia and Ryan, a little Apple podcast review Valentine would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we'll read it out and we'll thank you personally.
And then that'll be our Valentine to you.
Exactly.
It'll be good for everybody. Speaking of thanking you personally, I would love if you could help support my child specifically, and order some Girl Scout cookies. Mm-hmm. I keep telling everybody, if you have a Girl Scout in your life right now, please find her and buy some cookies from her. Mm-hmm. Because I know for me, like I went on Facebook and it was like all of my cousins and a bunch of my friends. And it's like, like my boss sent out an email earlier today. Like I know that my child is not the only Girl Scout out there. So if somewhere in your family or your community or something like that, you have a Girl Scout that you want to support, please find her and support her. Cookie sales are how they raise the majority of their funds to do most of their activities through the year, which helps make sure that being a Girl Scout is decently affordable. I had to pay for her uniform this year because it's her first year. And then I think it was like $40 for the whole year. And that covers almost all of their activities and all that kind of stuff. And then the cookie sales fund almost all of the rest of that. So it makes sure that it's something that a lot more kids can do. If you do not have a Girl Scout in your life, you can borrow mine. They get to these kids and their technology. Back in my day, I had to go door to door and make phone calls. Now they've got these websites. We will put a link to Eleanor's cookie website in the show notes. Obviously, you are not obligated to buy cookies from my child. But I know that there was a period of time where I just really wanted some Thin Mints and I didn't know any children selling Thin Mints. So if you are in that boat, have I got a child for you? You can have some cookies from her. You cannot have the child. She's mine. Depends on the day. But anyway, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. So if you would like to support the Girl Scouts, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we ordered a bunch just this morning and got some for my mother-in-law. So yeah, it's a very good investment, I would say. I would say cookies are a great investment for like me 2 months from now. Exactly. Like I wouldn't say that they're a great like long-term thing, but like short-term, amazing. The 3 to 6 month period, especially if you put them in the freezer, fantastic. That's what we do. And then we can just, throughout the year and just pull them out. I think we've got 1 pack left from last year. So I've forgotten to buy them the last several years. So I'm like really excited. Gonna have to get to it. Well, we have one final announcement before we really get to the episode. As mentioned in this episode, there was a fan-created bundle that was released with 6 new playbooks and 3 new settings. You can find that for download on itch if you enjoyed what you heard this week and want even more. We'll put a link to our show notes for you to follow. That is all of the announcements, I promise. We are going to start the series. We are thrilled to have April Kit Walsh with us. Really excited for you to hear what we did. I said on Twitter, I think that this might be peak usness for a series. I think that this might be the most Amelia and Ryan we've ever been. So I hope you enjoy. Welcome to Character Creation Cast, a show where we discuss and create characters, the best part of role-playing games, with guests using their favorite systems. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia, and this episode, my co-host Ryan and I are excited to welcome April Kit Walsh, designer of the game we are covering for this series, Thirsty Sword Lesbians, a powered by the apocalypse game about love, swords, and adventure. Yeah, welcome to Character Creation Cast, April. We are really excited to have you here.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me. I can't wait to see what characters you come up with.
Absolutely.
It's going to be so much fun. I know. I have not had the chance to play this game yet. I think I had there were a couple times at conventions that I was like, and then obviously, life. But I'm like so excited to like mess around with it at least.
Yeah. I mean, character creation is fun. It is definitely part of playing the game. So we will get you that part of the experience at least.
Yes.
Absolutely. So April, can you tell us a bit more about yourself, where we can find you online and any projects you're currently involved in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm April Walsh. My pronouns are she, her, or gay, gem. I am Gay Spaceship Games, and you can find me at gayspaceship.com or at gayspaceshipgms on Twitter, because that's how many characters they will let you have in your Twitter username. When I'm not doing games, I am a public interest attorney at a civil liberties organization, suing the government over your rights and so on. And I am, in terms of RPG projects, I am working on doing a prettier version of my first game, End of the Line, about a sentient spaceship and the crew of the sentient spaceship on the way to the scrapyard, which is a descended from the Queen, a lightweight narrative storytelling game that winds up being secretly queer also. Thirsty Sword Lesbians is not secret about the queerness.
No. Fooled you.
Right? Well, occasionally people will show up and think it's going to be objectifying, but as soon as they get to the art, then, they know that it is not for male gaziness.
All right. Should we go ahead and dive into this?
Yeah.
We will start by discussing what this game is all about.
What's in a game?
So what is the core concept of Thirsty Sword Lesbians?
So Thirsty Sword Lesbians is a game of telling stories about queer action romance and found family. And the title really does sort of encapsulate what you're going to find in there. But it's not entirely romance focused. It's really about that need for a connection. So the core concept is that you're going to explore both your personal growth and the way that you relate to the other characters in this lighthearted and celebratory setting where we're not telling a story about queer tragedy, we're telling a story that's empowering and celebratory.
Which is super important because unfortunately, we don't get enough of those kinds of stories. What kind of setting are you playing in for this game? Is it like a realistic current setting? Is it sort of a fantasy setting?
So the idea is that you can play in any setting where swords cross and hearts race. So because the game, and as you'll see, the character archetypes are centered around sort of human experiences and relationships, you can translate it to any setting. So it's not genreless because there is a very clear set of genres that you're exploring, but it's also not tied to a specific setting. We do provide settings, 5 of them in the core book, dozens in the expansion book. But we also have a little worksheet for creating your own setting collaboratively to make sure that you're going to be exploring the stuff that you're excited about exploring. And we're going to highlight that here on the podcast in a little bit.
I'm super excited about it.
I'm so excited. Oh my gosh.
We love making settings.
I know.
Yay.
Absolutely. So what tools do we need to play this game then?
Yeah, you need the character sheets, which are called Playbooks. You need 2 6-sided dice. This is in the Powered by the Apocalypse family of games, where every time a player is rolling, you're going to be rolling 2 6-sided dice, adding them up, and then adding a number like a stat. So that's the core tool that you need. And you can also grab the Roll20 module and play on Roll20. Both the core book and the expansion are available there.
Very nice.
What kind of stories and themes was this game meant to explore? I know obviously like where people go with it in their home games is sort of on them, but like what kind of things did you like hope people would get out of it?
Yeah, so there are a lot of really moving stories about connection, and sometimes you're playing a fun bantery character. Sometimes you're playing a completely awkward, oblivious lesbian or gay disaster, and that's all completely valid too. Like sometimes I'll describe the feel of the game as, you remember that scene from The Princess Bride where Wesley and Inigo are dueling on tops of the cliffs of insanity, and they're sort of being playful about it and being impressed by each other, and then Inigo presses Wesley against the rocks and then they kiss. That's the kind of story, that's the kind of moment that we're going for. So there's both that sort of campy, fun story, and then also like sort of meaningful moments of connection and character growth. You'll see when you look at the playbooks, the archetypes, they're each centered around an emotional conflict that the character is experiencing. So the trickster, for example, really craves closeness and connection, but is afraid of being vulnerable. And the playbooks are designed to evoke that feeling and tell an arc about a character who is facing that challenge just in their own self or development or life. And you will get those moments in play and with enough sort of lightness around them to get both of those feelings, the queer action being celebrated and the found family moments. And you can start to get it in character creation. I think we'll see it later on.
Nice. Very nice.
Right. Yes.
Absolutely. So then as characters, what do our characters do exactly in this game? Like, I know we're telling these awesome stories and a lot of action, but what else can we do in this game?
Yeah, well, there are a whole bunch of campaign concepts that are presented in the core book. So you might be representatives of an interstellar federation of queerness visiting the neighboring realm of heteronormia to represent your culture at a political wedding. And then it turns out, spoiler for one of the adventures in the game, that not everyone in heteronormia is as straight as they act in order to avoid punishment.
What? Surprise.
Right? I know. Spoiler.
As someone who was raised in a Catholic family, what?
Why is there no real world comparison?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? As I look at my family and it's like, I'm one of 5 kids and it's like 2 of us are queer. Like, it's like, it's fine. It happens.
Right? And you'll see when we do world building, one of the steps is figuring out what is the scope of your positive and supportive society that you exist in. Do you have a whole bunch of planets, or are you a coven existing in secret, something in between? And that can really affect what your characters are doing and what kinds of stories you're telling. Are you trying to protect something that is good and positive? Are you trying to improve it? Are you trying to improve something that's really terrible? Are you just trying to, resist oppressive forces? Are you exploring and making new connections with new kinds of people? So it is meant to explore a wide range of those kinds of stories, particularly stories that empower people who are queer, as well as sort of if you focus on the ways that the mechanics encourage you and facilitate interacting with other people, there are a lot of ways of connecting and trying to understand those other people. So obviously you can try to entice them if you want to approach it in a flirty way. But you can also try to figure them out and see sort of what makes them tick. And then in keeping with the genre, if you try to figure them out in the middle of a sword fight with them, then you get to ask some extra questions because some truths of the heart are only revealed when you lock eyes across your flashing blades and see into the other person's soul. So the fighting is in part, you can move it to a metaphorical level. You don't have to have swords. You can be playing a tennis match. You can be in a debate with somebody, etc. But it's really meant to bring you those moments of conflict that are really visceral and really close and really bring feelings to the surface so that they can be explored and so sparks can fly and so on. So you'll see if you look at the options you can pick, if you roll a narrative upbeat on a fight move, some of them are just you taunt or flirt with the person and get some emotional leverage over them. There are no rules for physical injuries. There are conditions. So if you receive a condition, you get to pick which one you're feeling, and it's things like afraid or guilty or hopeless, and then that feeds into a play cycle where if you are having a condition like that, it's both a role-playing prompt and it carries a little mechanical downside, but then you're also sort of spurred to try to clear that condition. And the two major ways of doing that are either someone else in your group gives you emotional support, which is a roll that could result in another downbeat as you're about to kiss, but then your ex breaks in the window and it catches you.
God, I hate when that happens.
Right?
We've all been there.
And then the other way to clear a condition is by taking a destructive action unilaterally. So basically, either you get that sweet moment of emotional support that's intense and requires you to open up, or you have this sort of narrative impetus to go and do something that is, not optimal in a sort of practical sense, but is very optimal in a drama-making, storytelling sense, where because you are insecure, you rashly challenge the person that you're jealous of to duel in the middle of this diplomatic function and take it from there. So
that's where Amelia lives in games, is like, what? Okay. Like, because I don't want to be the person that is like, I'm going to make a stupid decision, but like, okay, what in this situation, a normal person would be freaked out. So I'm going to be freaked out. Like, a normal person would get upset. So I will get upset. I love living in that, like, is this the optimal, like, mechanical decision? Absolutely not. But I'm going to do it because it's fun.
Right. Yeah. Well, I love in particular the way that the fate system makes those the same thing, right? So you have an aspect, and if you lean into the way that it makes trouble for you, you get a mechanical resource, right? So it's like giving you that permission. And so there are ways that the mechanics of Thirsty Sword Lesbians let you do that same thing, and give you permission to go for the dramatic beat in a way that no one is going to say, like, oh no, that's not optimal, we're going to get TPK'd now because you role-played your character, in a way that's actually fun for the story.
Absolutely. So I have a question that's like, it's not on our outline, but I'm going to ask it anyway because it's my show. One of the things that like frustrates me about queer stories a lot of the time is that it's like, oh, look at that struggle and how hard life is. And it's just like, what a bummer. And it's so terrible. And then like this single person overcomes it and then we all cry and it's great. What does this game do to kind of, I don't want to say like discourage, because I don't think most role-playing games really like discourage people from telling the stories that they want to tell, but like to encourage other kinds of stories outside of that narrative that we see so often?
Yeah, so the tone throughout the game is very much celebratory, and you are effective people, right? So you can absolutely set up a world where, queer people are oppressed and there are these toxic powers that are enforcing heteronormativity, etc. But the characters will both have sort of significant ability to hit narrative upbeats. So the way that the sort of, I'm not sure what the right order is to explain this, but the characters will have a significant ability to hit narrative upbeats. So in their story, there are these positive, triumphant, celebratory moments that are happening. And it's also the case that each character archetype comes with a sort of arc of growth. So you're not going to be sort of stagnated or shut down. I think a great one to talk about as an example of this is the Seeker playbook. So the concept of the Seeker is that they were brought up in this toxic society. They still have a bunch of toxic beliefs, which are the commandments that you define at character creation. But the story of that playbook is rejecting those commandments and writing your own convictions. And then you can be like an anime protagonist. There's a move to just like shout one of your convictions in the middle of a conflict and get, a mechanical benefit from that. Which my favorite recent example was the character who had rejected oppressive fashion requirements, and her battle cry was, "It has pockets."
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, so good.
So it really, it's both the tone of the material surrounding the game and the settings are talking about how you can be effective and celebrate queer existence, even in some of the settings that are very oppressive.
Mm-hmm.
And the mechanical system is centered not around success and failure, but around the narrative feeling of the story beat that you get as a result of it.
Yeah.
So if you roll high, it's a narrative upbeat. Things feel good. You're either making progress or learning something useful or having a good moment of connection. If you roll low, that results in a narrative downbeat, which sometimes that could mean you fail at the thing you're doing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It could also just mean you discover a new circumstance that's like bad news, or over on, the next planet, the evil galactic empire has reached the next stage of their propaganda campaign. And now, you see kids in the street playing Captain Muscle versus the others and beating up aliens because of the sort of xenophobic agenda of the empire. So because the mechanics actively distribute those results across the narrative beats, you will get a story that has all of those moments, all of those dramatic moments. And you will also be able, typically by the end of the story, to have resources that you can spend to support each other. You actually get them from the start. And so when you really want to pull out an upbeat, you're often able to do that, but not always. And that's sort of a design choice because I like being surprised and I like complications.
Definitely.
And you can absolutely mod it into a token-based game and sort of do it more by consensus or preference about what narrative beat you're going to hit next. But the game is designed to incorporate the randomness of dice so that you get surprised, have fun surprises at the table.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's like definitely value for a lot of people in sort of playing out difficult situations at the table. Like I like to do that. Like there's something kind of therapeutic about that. So like certainly I wouldn't tell anybody to be like, don't do anything oppressive or terrible ever. If that's what works for you and you want that story of like overcoming that, that's cool. I just know that like for me, sometimes when I go into games that I know have kind of a queer narrative, I'm like, I already did that in my life and I don't really want to spend a lot of time like pretending that, I don't exist. So
yeah, I absolutely wanted there to be a queer game that was celebratory and had adult protagonists in it.
Yeah.
Because both of those I feel are still underrepresented in A, media, but B, our medium. So excited for people to make more of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Our next question on here is supposed to be what is unique about this game, but I feel like we've kind of like just did that a little bit. Do you have other things that you want to like talk about here?
Well, I'll just highlight, my favorite unique mechanic, which is the smitten mechanic.
Okay.
So, at any time, you may declare that your character is smitten with someone else. And this has a little mechanical effect, but the main thing is you've got to answer a question that's connected to your playbook that is basically going to tell us why that is an interesting or fraught story to tell, right? So if you're the trickster I referred to earlier, then, if you become smitten with someone, you've got to say what's a secret about you that you're sure would make them reject you. Right? Like, now you've got like an extra reason to not want to be vulnerable, etc. And it's a signal to the rest of the table that this relationship is something you're interested in focusing on. It's a signal to the GM that this particular obstacle is something that's fun and that you want to get poked at. And I it can just be really sweet when somebody does something and there's a declaration of smitten right afterwards.
That's so good. Oh, I'm so excited about this.
So the big muscular warrior leaps in, lifts me up to save me from the oncoming dragon breath or whatever. I'm like, okay, smitten. Yeah. Yep. That does it for me.
Who wouldn't
be? Right? Awesome. I love that mechanic, and I can't wait to see some of the examples on the playbooks of what you might need to reveal at that point. Very juicy. I like it. So here's where we talk about the history of the game. This game hasn't been around too terribly long in the grand scheme of the role-playing industry. When did you first start working on Thirsty Sword Lesbians?
And why? What I want to know what made you be like, this is a game that I need to make?
Yeah. So the when is an easy answer. That's just a date, a fact. So I started working on it in late 2017. And I have a full-time job, sometimes more than a full-time job. So there would be spans where I would make no progress on it for months, right? It was just sort of a side thing that was rattling around in my brain. The first play test was January 2018. So sometimes people are surprised that it predates the She-Ra reboot. I think some of the same juices, creative juices, were soaking, in me, as in Noel Stevenson. But the reason was that I really wanted a game like this to exist. I wanted a game that would tell these stories of connection and drama in a way that was celebratory, but also in a way that was really careful and thoughtful about consent. Because if you are telling stories about romance and connection, it's really important that the mechanics support healthy ways of connecting. So when I was describing those mechanics before about, you can learn about a person, you can flirt with them. There's no move where you can roll dice and if it's big, they do what you want, no matter what they want, right? That's just not a thing. There's no I rolled 20 on a persuasion check. I override this person's personhood. So I really wanted that for sure. And I hadn't experienced it. I actually went through this fun phase while I was developing Thirsty Sword Lesbians, where any game you put in front of me that supports it, I'm going to play a Thirsty Sword Lesbian. So we were in a playtest of Agon, the game of Greek heroes. I'm a thirsty gladius lesbian, and just sort of to see how it feels. But I wanted a game that really centered that and those kinds of connections and those sort of fun, campy, flirty scenes. So the short answer is I wanted it and I didn't find it in the world yet. So that's why I made a game.
Just full of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You were like, I don't want a little of this.
Yeah, I don't want one character in this game to be this. I want every character to be this.
That's so, because occasionally, someone will make a game and I'll be like, oh, you made the me playbook. This is you made a flirtatious duelist playbook. That's really cool. So what if they were all like that? What if they were all, is some form of queer disaster? And I also think there are so many different ways of experiencing queerness and emotional growth and connection that it doesn't make sense to just have one character type, right? That's supposed to represent all of that. I put in 9 archetypes in the core book. We've got 10 more in the expansion. And then fans are making even more. So when this episode airs, there will be a bundle already for a bunch of community-created playbooks and settings, all themed around new options and some Valentine's Day specific fun.
Ooh.
The Isle of Always Be Falling in Love. So there's 6 new playbooks written by fans, although some of them are also official contributors, but they're a really good bunch of new options like the Admirer, who do I want to be with them or do I just want to be them is the basic vibe of the Admirer.
Question.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a Scamster. There's the Tempered, who is trying to figure out the right balance of flexibility and hardness. And it's full of both a bunch of fun blacksmithing references, but also a lot of innuendos around the flexibility and the hardness. And it's all a good time. And there are adventures, vampires, and I recommend that you check it out. It will be linked from my itch, which is at gayspaceship.com. And it's a fun bundle of third-party creations because Thirsty Sword Lesbians is offered under an open license so that everyone can make their own hacks of it or supplements for it, etc. And you can find out more about that at poweredbylesbians.com if that interests you.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And we'll have a link to it in the show notes when this episode releases. So
perfect.
Absolutely check it out.
So it really is, not a limited well to draw from in terms of the kinds of stories and characters that you're going to celebrate.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And the original game was originally kickstarted back in 2020, right?
Yes.
November. Yeah. And then just a year later, you had another successful Kickstarter with the expansion Advanced Lovers and Lesbians.
Right. Yeah. So essentially the first Kickstarter was wildly successful. We raised almost $300,000.
Yeah.
And a lot of that went into funding the stretch goal contributors. And that was originally envisioned as a PDF, right? We'll have a few more settings, a few more playbooks and distributed electronically. And it wound up being more pages than the core book, all told.
Wow.
We're like, well, we've got another book on our hands. So that sort of the second Kickstarter was like a quick 2-week thing to fund a print run of the stretch goals. And so I'm really excited that I'm going to get to hold those in my hands as well. Because it, more than doubles the number of playbooks and then provides all of these settings and adventures that people wrote from Heian era Japan to a sort of mashup between Gideon the Ninth and She-Ra on the planet Crystalia, right? Like you show up, you're just a Death Knight.
You said all the correct words. I'm listening.
Right? I'm a Death Knight. I'm sworn to protect my necromancer, but we have to infiltrate this party of like these sparkly princesses. So let's pretend that we're just, we're carefree princesses who love glitter and stuff. And my necromancer's not having it.
Ryan, that's like our characters right now. There's a sparkly princess and there's a necromancer. That's like everything Ryan and I love.
I know. That's why I'm super excited to make characters for this game with you, Amelia,
so
because
this
is like exactly our side of the. Oh, it's so good.
Oh, yep.
Perfect.
All right. Before we get into our very exciting Sparkly Princess Necromancers, basic terms that people might need to know going into this. I know there's the usual, like the stats for the PBTA games, like the +1 and -1 and whatever. So do you want to just run through what those are for this game?
Yeah, sure. And so the general mechanic, as I mentioned earlier, is you're always just rolling 2d6 and then adding a small number. And usually that small number is one of your stats. So daring represents both skill at arms and forcefulness, personality and muscle-wise. Grace is elegance, poise, agility. Heart is emotional awareness and expression. Wit is cleverness, knowledge, quick thinking, and spirit is metaphysical power as well as integrity. So those are the stats, and there are basic moves that rely on all of those. A bunch of the basic moves actually give you options. So when you are fighting, you can do that either in a daring or graceful way. When you are emotionally supporting someone, you can do that either with heart or with spirit. There are others that require a specific stat, but if you look at the basic moves, they may give you some idea of what you want to focus on. And then each playbook will have moves that use usually 2 different stats from that range and give you a sense of the 2 primary options for how to build out that playbook.
And then I saw that strings was a big thing as well.
Yeah. So strings they represent emotional leverage, and they're sort of double-edged in the sense that if I give you a string on me, that might mean, I care about your opinion, or I have a crush on you, or you know how to manipulate me, or have some kind of other leverage. And at the very start of the game, you're going to give strings to each other. And the fact that that is double-edged and mechanically can be used to either help or hinder, or push someone towards a course of action means that there's a little bit of an element of vulnerability, which you need to give in order to get the benefits of someone having a string on you that they can use to support you. So that there is a basic move, influence with a string, that shows you the things that you can do with it. The main things are giving a small adjustment to a dice roll or tempting them. So if they follow the course of action that you suggest, you spend the string, they get an XP, and you go from there. So, it doesn't even have to be something that's bad for them. You could be like, you are making a scene and you are going to get us tossed in a dungeon. Let me spend my string on you to tempt you to back down from this fight. I know you really want to punch that person, but let me try to move you in a different direction. And so you can see consent is built into that because it's a temptation. It's not, now I mind control you and you do what I want.
I like that.
And then the other mechanic or term that I will revisit is conditions. We talked about them before, but if you see that word, that is referencing those 5 difficult emotional states that you might wind up with. If you have all 5 of them checked and you take another condition, you are defeated. That rarely happens unless you're playing one of those self-sacrificing playbooks like The Devoted, who keeps throwing yourself in danger and not doing any self-care. And then maybe you'll learn something from that experience. But that's the only way I have ever gotten taken out in a one-shot.
Oh, that's amazing.
And you're not out like for good, right? You don't lose the character. It's just for that scene, your character is effectively helpless. So it takes a lot to get to that point. And you can give each other emotional support. In the heat of battle, you can give each other emotional support. If you see someone is flagging and is about to, hit their limit, then you can have a heartwarming moment. You can steal them for a kiss. You can do what is needed to help them out.
I like that. Is there anything else that we need to go over before we get into making some people?
Well, we are going to make the world together first.
Oh, yeah.
So the first step to that would be doing a little safety exercise, which has a palette. So the palette is sort of, it includes the positive elements of these are things I do want to see in this story or in this setting. And then there are things that you do not want to see, either for safety reasons, right? Like you might have a hard line against something being depicted in the story, or you might just be like, I'm sick of dragons. I'm just bored of dragons. Let's not do that this game. So that's the palette exercise. And then there's a little worksheet to go through as a group to make the setting. And that'll make sure that you figure out sort of some of those tone questions that we were talking about at the beginning when we were talking about the range of tones that the game supports. And we'll also define some toxic powers. Like, what are the adversarial, powerful people or organizations that are menacing our characters before then making the characters to inhabit that kind of story. So it's a big exercise in getting on the same page about the stories we're going to tell.
Cool.
All right. Well, shall we make a place?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's make a place.
Let's make a place.
Do you have any do wants or do not wants for the palette as we get started?
Ooh.
I heard some affection for necromancers.
Okay, so this is our aesthetic, is that Ryan and I have stopped pretending to be anything that we aren't. In the early days of this podcast, we tried to change it up and like make new and different characters every time. And lately, we have decided that the world has enough chaos and we just want to be ourselves and do our thing, in which case, every single episode, Ryan makes a magical girl and I make a necromancer.
That's wonderful.
So something with magical girls and necromancers.
That'd be nice, yeah.
That's wonderful.
I would not be opposed to pirates being included as well.
Okay.
Because the first thing, when you talked about the tagline of the game, Swords Cross and Hearts Race, the very first genre that comes to mind is pirates.
Love it.
For me. And
okay, so you're Peter Pan and I'm Captain Hook.
Right. Okay. Love all of this. So we're going to have magical girls, pirates, and necromancers.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my.
Oh my.
That's enough to go from for me. Are there any nopes like don't like snakes or anything that we need to raise at this point?
I mean, from a world building standpoint, I'm pretty open to almost everything myself. Nothing that's not normal to include on that sort of list, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like my no's are just like are the standard, okay, we're decent people, so
yeah,
there's nothing non-consensual, nothing with children, nothing with,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, and my usual caveat of, I don't care if there's slight body horror, do not describe the sound it makes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh.
That's why, do not tell me what it sounds like.
Perfect. All right. So there's this world building worksheet that is in the handouts. It's page 4 of the handouts that'll make sure we hit all of these elements. So what genre is our story? It sounds like a Age of Pirates, Age of Sail fantasy to me. Does that sound right?
I mean, we could go, the Age of Sail. We could go space pirate, magical girl, necromancers. I mean, I kind
of like futuristic space pirates.
I do.
I'm not going to lie to you. I think
Sweet.
I really want space pirates.
Do you think space is a vacuum, or can you just breathe in space? You just fly around on
is it just like a regular pirate ship, but in space? It's open.
Oh goodness.
But there has to be wind. I don't know. I feel like space. I like the idea of space being dangerous.
Yeah.
Cool. Got it. All right.
And then when you're docking with the ships, it's actual sci-fi docks and stuff.
You got to drill in and dash across the laser plank. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So are we feeling more goofy or angsty? What end of the tone spectrum are we excited about?
Oh, goodness.
I always lean more angsty. That's always my preferred.
Perfect.
I feel like we end up in silly a lot of the time.
Yeah. I like angsty with a hint of goofiness.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay.
I like the idea of like angsty, but we don't know we're angsty. Like, or the other way around. Like it's silly, but we think we're angsty.
Oh,
you know,
like you're taking
like
it really seriously.
Like teen drama, like, you know, but like if you're watching it from the outside, you're like, this is stupid.
Incredible. I love that. So yeah, let's define the scope of your community. Are you, a couple of options. You've got a ship of dependable crew that, share your values and that's your home, or like a whole pirate fleet, or are you pirates from some bigger entity? What are you thinking in terms of the scale of what your support network is like?
I mean, my first instinct would be a single ship.
Yeah, that's kind of mine too, because I was like, otherwise is there like a union of pirates, but that just sounds like too much bureaucracy for me. Like I don't want to be like, I mean, like we could be like fighting against the pirates union because we're like, we've gone rogue or something. It could be like our East India Trading Company over there. No, I think solo. We're on our own here.
Cool. And what's like especially positive about that community on the ship? Are they like really good at emotional support or skill sharing? Do you have like a really dependable leader? What do you think?
I think it's a group of people that is just like eminently reliable. Like they are
nice.
Like you're trapped in this like not that big of a ship together. Like we just like get along and get each other, and like
I like that.
Everybody has your back.
I love that. So the next prompt is, what NPC epitomizes that virtue? So who is the big reliable NPC, the one you can always go to, and what do they want?
Is it like the cook?
I was going to say it's a cook or a mechanic. Those are my two. It's the cook or the mechanic. I think our cook is also our mechanic.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Yeah. Do you want to toss out a name?
Oh, names. What's a good space cook name?
I don't know. For some reason, the first name that popped in my head was Francesca.
Okay.
Let's do it. And what does Francesca want from like the PCs? Does Francesca, just want like parts and cooking ingredients, or does Francesca want to be able to be vulnerable and not always be the reliable one with you? What do you think?
I think Francesca wants a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, especially
like I think Francesca likes what she does, but is like, I would like to be able to not do that too.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
for sure.
She fixes
I say
the
as a single mom.
Yeah.
She fixes the ship and fixes hearts and feeds us, and she just needs some
and is
time.
like very happy to do all of that, but would like somebody to like maybe reciprocate.
Exactly. Oh, Francesca.
I know. I feel for you. It is not at all personal. Right?
I'm setting the timer until someone is smitten with Francesca. So, what is a serious flaw of your community? So these are things like they might be combative or engage in endless deliberation, or just like be really stretched thin on resources, or depend on a problematic activity. That is one that I've seen picked by pirates a few times. If you think piracy is problematic, or so what's a flaw? We've defined, there's this great reliability and mutual support, and what's the downside?
I think they are like fiercely insular. So like we are tight knit, but like you're not going to let anybody new in. We're not going to like go and integrate ourselves in any other kind of group. Like, like it's our little clique.
Do you think there's like effectively a hazing period if you recruit somebody new?
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
But like we want to say that there's not. But there like definitely is. We're just like, no, we just want to like get to know what you're good at. And we want to, like we pretend it's not that.
Okay. So now we get to make an NPC who epitomizes the flaw and figure out what they want. So who's the one who either is really driving this insularity, or is the one who is putting the newbies through their paces?
Good question.
I think it's somebody who like we were going to get an assistant for Francesca. And like, we're like, okay, you know, we got to do this. But then we're like, nobody's good enough because we really like Francesca. And so like, we have this person and we're like, we got to like, you know, we're giving them a really, really hard time. And it is hazing, but also we're like, no, we need to make sure that you're good enough.
We're just picky.
We're just picky because Francesca is really important to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so they're actually like on the receiving end of that flaw of the community.
Right.
So what they want from the PCs is probably connection. Now, if we were doing a campaign at this point, I'd probably make up another NPC who is sort of enforcing that norm. You know, no one's good enough for Francesca. Yeah, I mean,
that's because that person is secretly in love with Francesca.
Yeah.
Doesn't want.
You figured it out.
Oh, no.
You figured it out. All right. Amazing. Yeah, we're supposed to define a location, but I think the ship is a great location.
Yeah.
And we also define why it would be a dramatic place to have a sword fight. So this is a great moment to get a mental image of what does the ship look like? You know, if we're in space, is there an equivalent to like rigging or swinging across through space? Do you like shoot yourself out of little tubes to board other ships? What does it look like? What does it look like when you're having a sword fight?
I mean, I feel like the ideal place for a sword fight is like a cargo area, like a huge, like, so there's like all kinds of boxes and things like that, but there's also like maybe like catwalks across, and obviously Star Wars style, no railings.
No. But like conveyor belts and little,
right.
Like,
and occasionally no gravity, because that's cool too.
Oh, totally.
I can imagine like the big bay doors open up and there's like, you know, the Star Wars style force field where things can go through but not air.
Right.
And so it keeps the atmosphere in, but then you like kind of extend that out as like a game plank when you're boarding other ships.
Oh, nice.
And then you can like effectively either drill into the ship itself or go to one of their exterior doors and extend that protection so you can just go right into their ship.
I love that. Yeah. Launch the laser harpoon and then just, you know, slide down that line through the extended atmosphere bubble.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Love
Perfect.
it. So we've got your ship. It needs a name.
Oh, I'm so bad at names. I didn't bring my book in here with me.
Well, we haven't touched on the necromancy aspect at all yet. Do you think there's like an element to the ship that incorporates that? Is it haunted? Is it like made of bones? What's the if you want to draw that element in, that's a possible source of inspiration.
I feel like it has to be like powered by necromantic magic, right?
That's what I was thinking, right? Oh,
Ship's haunted.
Ship's haunted. It's powered
Ship's
by
haunted.
Yeah.
It's fueled by souls.
Yeah. It's fueled by souls, but like in a non-destructive way. Like it's like somebody figured out perpetual motion with souls. Effectively.
Yeah,
that's
right, but somebody has to be there to like keep it going.
Yeah,
you know,
to shape
like,
it and make sure the souls are contained.
Yeah,
and
make sure that they stay inside the tank, you know?
Yeah, that would be an amazing NPC
because nobody wants a
too,
soul
right?
spill. Like
No,
You're not eating the souls. That's, I mean, the villains might do that.
Right,
But,
right.
you know, on your ship, it's, you know, maybe an old friend. Maybe you knew them when they were alive.
I mean, for us, it's about a sustainable fuel source.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I would absolutely make the ship a character at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the core of it is souls, maybe it's even this amalgam personality that has all the memories of all of these souls and is a collective entity that can speak
So
to
it
you
has
in
like, I
different
think it
parts
has
of the
like
ship.
all kinds of like weird quirks
Like the
that
AI
because
of
of
the ship.
that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And all of our fallen comrades that have signed up for becoming part of the ship when they pass.
Right. You can be an organ donor and you can be a soul donor.
They basically donate their soul to the ship and they live on within the systems. So
Right.
like if you had a connection with somebody in life and one of them dies, you still have an avenue to connect with them through the ship AI.
Mm-hmm.
So this is telling me that Francesca is cook, mechanic, necromancer, right? Like, how do you maintain this ship if you don't have, some necromancy? Her wrench is a magic wand at this point.
Right.
Love it.
Oh.
All right. We didn't name the ship, though. You almost got away with it. You distracted me with some really good details.
Curses. What's a good, spooky death name?
The Soul Train?
No.
I couldn't help but throw that one out there.
I think we could call it Solar Flare, except it's like soul.
Oh my God. I'm there. I am all about the pun base.
I do like that.
Yeah.
Creativity.
I think it's called Solar Flare.
Mm-hmm.
Solar Flare. Love it. All right. So now, for a campaign, we would define 2 toxic powers here. Let's just do one. And let's make it an external threat. So you can have toxic powers that are either threatening your community from outside or from within. Let's do one. There's something external that is threatening that, for our purposes, let's say they have a specific beef with you. So they actually, are an active threat. They're not just out there being bad. They are, clearly going to cause you some trouble. So what do we think they are?
Rival pirate crew?
Rival pirate crew?
Yeah.
What do they want?
We keep on going for the same scores.
Ooh.
And
we're better.
Yeah, we're better in some cases. Like they still win sometimes. Like but we are more consistent with winning the score.
Okay. And do these pirates do the evil consume souls to power their
they gotta
ship?
They gotta.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
What do they want from you? Do they want to humiliate you or take the possessions that you've gotten from? Do they want your souls? What's the deal?
Do they want our sustainable soul technology?
Right.
Oh.
or just have they want us out of the picture. Because if we weren't in the picture, I mean, they would get all of these
winning,
scores.
Yeah.
All right. They want you gone. What makes them so dangerous? Do they have blackmail on you? Are they just ruthless? Are there lots of them? Or is there a particular divine power or special magic? What's their advantage here?
They are incredibly attractive.
Oh. We keep accidentally falling in love with them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They're just disgustingly charming.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
You are ahead of the game because the next question is what's appealing about them?
Everything.
Everything.
They're just so hot.
Aside
so
from the part where they're
suave.
trying to kill us, super
Right?
into it.
They'll be in the middle of trying to kill you and you'll just swoon a little bit.
just be like,
No, gotta get my guard up.
God, but they look so good while they're doing it.
I know.
All right.
Yep.
So we define a location as it's probably their ship. It's their soul eating ship. Let's just call it the Soul Eater.
The Soul
Done.
Eater.
Yeah, the Soul Eater. There you go.
Yeah. And now we get to make an NPC who is the face of that toxic power. So who is, let's say, the captain of the Soul Eater? Who is this hot sword lesbian space pirate?
Oh, goodness.
I feel like I want her to call herself Joan of Arc. I don't know why. That or something really fancy, some kind of really fancy, flourishy kind of name. Evangeline.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Evangeline,
I like
captain of the Soul Eater,
Oh, it's so good. It's so sexy.
here to take your souls. All right.
You can take whatever you want.
All right. Love it. We did it. We've done world building.
Oh,
So
amazing.
we know, we've got the crew of the Solar Flare. We've got the Soul Eater. Francesca Solar Flare is, a conscious gay spaceship, which I love. And and then Evangeline over there just being way too hot. It's unfair. and coming to take all that you have to offer. Now we get to make the PCs.
All right.
Let's make some people.
Let's make some people.
You ready for this?
I'm so ready. So what is the first step that we need to do for character creation?
So each character is based primarily around a particular archetype that's embodied in a playbook. So these are things like the trickster that we talked about before, or the seeker, as well as the ones that are in the Advanced Lovers and Lesbians expansion, like the investigator or the Naga. So the first step would be to look through the list of playbooks and figure out which ones appeal to you. And particularly, each one has a little intro paragraph that'll tell you what they're all about and what their core emotional conflict is going to center around.
Yeah, I feel like that conflict was the part that like gave me the best idea of what I was going for. Just like that one little sentence is super helpful. You packed a lot in there.
Well, I don't know how you want to do this. There are 19 official ones at this point, so we probably don't want to go through all of them.
No.
But maybe if you're each considering a few different ones, we could talk about what differentiates them.
Yeah. Okay, obviously there's one called Spooky Witch.
Oh, yeah.
So that is definitely on the table for me. It says their central conflict lies in navigating the pressures to conform versus their own desire or those of their monstrous friends, which sounds fun.
Yeah, the spooky witch, they can see the unseen. And that's sort of like a generic term that you get to flesh out. Are the unseen these souls? Are they interdimensional aliens that only you can see? But they are also, a metaphor for people who go unseen by others. So that's your conflict, right? You can see them, you befriend them, you care about them, and they also might need you.
Yeah, I thought the trickster was interesting too. The central conflict lies in desiring closeness while fearing vulnerability. We've talked about that one a little bit in a couple of your examples too.
Yeah, people will often tell me that they feel called out by that one.
So my process of picking one was entirely the thought of which one of these is the most magical girl.
Yeah, for sure.
And from the Advanced Lovers and Lesbians playbooks, the Legion kind of stuck
absolutely.
out. Oh, goodness. The Legion is a soldier chosen by destiny and the latest to bear the name and powers of their legacy of past incarnations. Their central conflict is figuring out who they are between their present self and the many thems that came before them. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I definitely earmarked that one as one that you would enjoy.
Yeah.
It's really fun. Yeah, I recently played a Legion and just telling that tragedy, right, where you lose pieces of your current memory that are really important in the course of getting the power of these past lives. And so you're navigating that legacy versus, your current identity. It's very magical, girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that.
Yeah, I felt like that or The Devoted, Ryan, would be.
Yeah, Devoted was definitely another one that I was thinking of.
That's like pretty classic Ryan.
Yeah,
I think
Devoted.
The Legion is a little more interesting for you, and especially for like this story, but The Devoted is, that's your...
And the Matriarch was a nice kind of middle ground as well. Which, the Supermom, Kisser of Many.
I looked at that one and then I was like, this is a little too real and I don't really want to do that.
Yeah, but I love the example archetypes for the Legion. The first one being Pretty Guardian of Destiny, and if that doesn't if that doesn't scream Sailor Moon, I don't know what does.
Yeah, Pam Ponzellin did a great job with that, and there's actually a setting that is designed to hook into the Legion specifically as well. In Advanced Lovers and Lesbians. So that's a great one. That's a great pick. As between that and the Devoted, the Legion is probably a little more spotlighty. So the Devoted, has a whole bunch of like support moves, but can also sort of do some shared spotlight moments when they're rescuing someone or what have you. There's a sort of intentional design in the playbooks that you can pick both what level of like conflict you want. The matriarch is a pretty low angst playbook. You can play any of them angsty, but it doesn't sort of intrinsically come with a big heavy angst. The way that the seeker, obviously, like you're rejecting everything you've been taught. There are all these people trying to enforce it. That's sort of an intrinsically high conflict playbook. So the matriarch can be more mellow. The nature witch can be more mellow. The spooky witch even can be more mellow, right? Like if you're just, I don't have any conflict about this. I love the unseen, and people who think they're bad are wrong. Done. Yeah. I'm just, now my conflict is just the world is crummy and I'm trying to fight for what I believe in. Or you could play it in a way that has more sort of internal angst, but those are all great picks and fit really well with this setting and everything that we've been developing. Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on what you would like to do? Because you get to make one too.
I get to make one?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
I didn't think about that at all. I thought I was just facilitating this thing. No. All right. So we've got a magical legion girl. We've got...
I think I'm going to go with the spooky witch.
Spooky witch.
Because I think that... it's called the spooky witch.
Like, yeah.
I have like above my computer here, I have a wreath that I bought that has like beautiful flowers, and some of them are black roses and then little glittery gold spiders in it. Like that's my decor in my room right now.
That's so good. I'm gonna go with the spaceship. So I'm gonna play the spaceship, the mass of souls. And I'm going to do that with the Bloody playbook. So the Bloody is a character who has seen a lot of things and been through a lot of trauma and has sort of the protective element and a fierce element and is trying to essentially, find a place in between the extremes of someone who doesn't fit in with the place that they like care about anymore, versus, feeling like they can't lower their guard and so on. So that is what comes to mind. I think the Dream Mirror would be a really fun other direction to take it. That's another expansion playbook where you don't really know what you want. You are like reflecting the desires that other people have. You're trying to be the perfect person for them. And then over the course of the playbook, figuring out more about what you really want and how to stick up for that. And I think either of those could work really well for, a living spaceship, right? Someone who is a home for others. I think while also having their own needs.
I think Hollow Goddess would be interesting too, in that sort of thing where you could embody the person, one of the personalities at a time, and you're just constantly switching between souls or whatever.
I love that.
Interesting.
And especially there are elements of the Hollow Goddess that are all about having like a fragmented memory and having lost connections. And that works really well for a mass of ghosts that might not be able to remember anything from all those lives. So so many good ways to take it. I think I'll go ahead and start with the Hollow Goddess. So one of the fun things about TSL is over the course of play, you will probably take a character through 2 or 3 playbooks before you're done telling their story. Cool. I might start as, say, the Dream Mirror. Like, I don't really know what I want. I'm just sort of reflecting everybody else. I just like woke up as souls in this necromatrix. And, am I even allowed to want things, or am I just a tool and a home for all these people? And then, when you get over that, you might be like, cool, well, now I'm the Hollow Goddess. Now I sort of know that I've lost some memories and I care about that, but I also have enough of myself to sort of work on that grief and prioritize myself a little bit. And then maybe you're the grizzled veteran Bloody later on. And then, by the time you're done with that, you're like, cool, I'm ready for this character to live happily ever after. So let's land in the middle. I'll go for the Hollow Goddess. Catherine Cross did a great job with that playbook. And it fits. It totally fits the ghost mask that I am. I already have a name. I'm ahead of the game. I'm the solar flare now.
Yeah, there you go. Now question, flare spelled Flare or Flair?
Ooh.
Let's go double pun. Yeah.
Double pun.
Flair. Always stick more puns in there.
You might as well. Oh, it's amazing. Call to action.
Yeah, like that. Ryan, this game is really good.
It's
This is
so
like
good.
a really good game. So we've covered a lot of PBTA games.
Yeah.
And, we're just getting into this. So we haven't really started to dig deep into it, but there's just so much here in the content and the tone of it even that I'm so hyped about, and I can't wait for people to hear
Yes.
what we do to this.
It's interesting. It's interesting because I think we're both suckers for romantic content.
Yeah, we totally are.
In games. And I think
just the messiness of it. I don't even think of it I'm sort of the kissing and but just the drama of a good romance that let's make it messy.
Exactly. Well, I think that's why the Christmas belonging also helped resonate with us. A Christmas, but also romance tropes up the wazoo in those Christmas type stories. So it's so good, and goodness, next episode it just gets even better.
And I just have to say the joy of something that celebrates queerness in this way is really exciting for me. Something that I don't have to find a way to make it queer. Because that's not and I'm sure same for you, that is not the version of gaming that I come from. It's okay, this character happens to be but this is a celebration of that in a way that I haven't gotten to play out really before.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Exciting. It was very exciting.
I loved seeing that, and I loved that it wasn't created in such a way that's it could have been something gross. If the wrong creator made this, it would have been bad. But this is fantastic.
But this was not.
It's made from a place of love, and it shows.
From love and an understanding of what she wanted from this game.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, before we let you go for the week so that you can hurry through this week and get to next week and find out what else happens in our Thirsty Sword Lesbians series, just a few calls to action.
First, if you enjoyed what you heard today and you're interested in seeing more, check out the Truths of Heart bundle on itch, which has 6 new playbooks and 3 new settings. You can find the link for that in our show notes.
I was recently on an episode of Kill Every Monster. I joined Aram and Dylan to talk about my favorite thing, the undead and necromancy, and the moral and economic implications of raising the dead and how to get sustainable skeletons. I cannot recommend it enough. I had such a great time recording it. Aram did a phenomenal job with the editing. I am a little bit bummed because I know that he had to cut a ton of stuff out and it was still an hour and a half. But it was a fantastic time, and I hope that you will take a listen and that you will enjoy listening to it as much as I enjoyed making it. You can find that episode at killeverymonster.com or on any podcatcher.
We would love to get some more reviews from you. If you can leave a review on Podchaser, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addicts, Spotify, etc. Every 5-star review we get on one of those services, we'll read it right here on the show. If you have a few minutes, we would absolutely love to hear from you.
It is Girl Scout cookie season. If you have a Girl Scout in your life, please find them and order some cookies from them. It is the best way to support them. The funds from cookies go to support activities that they do year round. If you don't know a Girl Scout and you just really want some Thin Mints, I know a guy. I will put Eleanor's link in the show notes. So if you are looking for somewhere to buy cookies, you can buy them from her, perhaps.
Absolutely. And for now, while we are all stuck dreaming about cookies until those orders come in, Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next week, stay safe, drink some water, get vaccinated, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this character creation series. We'll be back in part 2, picking up right where we left off.
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can be found in the show notes. If you'd like to leave us a rating or review, we have links to various review platforms out there, including Apple Podcasts, in our show notes. Also, check the show notes for links to our other projects. Thanks for joining us, and remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We will see you next time.
Now we gotta read some show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Show blurbs.
Character Creation Cast is hosted by the One Shot Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, visit One Shot Podcast.
Just keep going.
If you enjoyed our show, visit oneshotpodcast.com, where you'll find other great shows like Backstory.
Backstory is a cozy, thoughtful interview show featuring the most fascinating folks in role-playing. Join host Alex Roberts as she gets to know game designers, LARP writes, scholars, community organizers, and more. From emerging artists to seasoned veterans, guests open up about their creative process, what keeps them engaged, and their visions for the future of role-playing.